Hi, everyone. Welcome to the weekly podcast with Ginnie and Barry. I'm Ginnie Graham, the editorials editor of the opinion pages at Tulsa World.
And I'm Barry Friedman, a writer, author, comedian in town. Been working on that introduction since we started. I'm going to get it right one of these days.
He writes about rocks. That's what I remember. Actual rocks. That's where he got to start. So, but
Geology.
we have guests today. It's Labor Day weekend.
How about that?
We invited organized labor to join us. We have Shauna Mott Wright, who is the president of the Tulsa Classroom Teachers Association, and the vice president, LeeAnne Jimenez. So we invited you because of all the labor unions out there right now, state officials have sort of picked on the teachers unions. So for the readers or the listeners, for background, the Governor Stitt issued an executive order wanting to remind teachers or somehow ensure that they know they have a right not to join a union, even though it's opt-in. And this was backed up by his education secretary, Ryan Walters. So I just wanted to start out. Shauna, can you and LeeAnne tell us how long you've been involved with the teachers associations and what are the biggest myths that you hear about what teachers unions do or don't that just make you want to pull your hair out?
Yeah, that's great. I'll start for here.
I think you're cutting out a little bit. LeeAnne, maybe you want to start?
Is that better?
That's better.
Maybe. Obviously, we're doing this via Zoom on Labor Day, and she's in Branson. So, but why don't LeeAnne? Why don't you start off on that one?
Well, thank you, first of all, for having us. And to all of the listeners out there, you're welcome for the 3-day weekend brought to you by unions and organized labor. I am starting my 26th year in education in Oklahoma. I had taught in Tulsa Public Schools my entire career. After 18 years in the classroom, I left the classroom to be the science coordinator for the district. I did that for 5 years, and then I was elected to represent teachers as the vice president of the Tulsa Classroom Teachers Association. So I've been at this for a while. I joined the union day one when I started back in 1997 and have been involved in some way, shape, or form ever since. I took a few years off when my husband was ill, and then after he passed away, I came back in. I was still always a member. I just was not as involved actively as I have been recently. So I've been at it for quite a while, and in been on the board, been a building delegate. I have been the second vice president. Now I'm the first vice president. And, one of the myths for me is that the unions are not teachers. We are elected by our peers to help them in negotiations and in issues that they're having in their building. We are one of them. I'm a certified teacher. I'm actually substituting in classrooms right now as vice president for TCTA. I'm full-time release. My salary is paid by members, not by the organization. I'm paid by members, and I'm out of the classroom to do this job. Having said that, I know how short we are with teachers right now, and so I've been teaching second grade since the first day of school to help until we can get someone in that classroom. So I'm a teacher. I'm not from out of state. I'm not, a big national person. I'm from right here in Tulsa, and I am a teacher in a classroom. And so everyone who says, the big union bosses, well, I'm one of the teachers.
Can I ask you about that? In 2012, Chris Christie, governor of New Jersey at the time, at the Republican National Convention, made a big deal about saying that Democrats believe in teacher unions and Republicans believe in teachers. What I'm curious about is, when did the left lose the narrative? When did the Democrats I wouldn't say exceed that, but when did we stop being the driving force in playing offense with teachers rather than defense? Rather than saying what you just said, that we are teachers, we are in the classroom. It seems like Republicans with unions and with teachers have the story right now, certainly in Oklahoma. Was there a time we lost that? Was it an incident that we lost it over?
I think for us in Oklahoma, there's a couple. First of all, our organization is made up of teachers across the district who happen to be, by the way, almost 50% Republican, almost 50% Democrat, with some independents sprinkled in. So the union is not made up of left-wing people. We're made up of your neighbors who are right next door to you. And there's no we are a democratic organization, but not the Democrats. We are not the Republicans. We are all of the above. So a couple of things. One of them is Citizens United. When that happened, that kind of skewed narrative a little bit. And then the right to work, when that became official in Oklahoma. First, and let me go back. OEA has never been, you have to join to, OEA has never been, you have to join. It's always been opt-in, even before right to work. And so when right to work came along, everybody in the Republican arena said, yay, we've defeated the unions. Now you don't have to join. You never had to join in Oklahoma for the OEA, for TCTA. Neither one of those was if you become employed as a teacher, you're automatically a union member. That's not true in other industry, but at least for Oklahoma and for TCTA and OEA, that's been the truth. It's always been opt-in. It's always been you can leave when you want to. We try to keep people for the whole year because we do the work for the whole year, regardless of whether you're a member or not. But I think those two things put together, the Republicans thought, ooh, we've defeated unions. Well, here we are still with about 75% of the members of the district are members of TCTA.
I know that, I mean, you're obviously representing the Tulsa teachers, but I was wondering if you had any sort of insight into the statewide look, because the state officials, the governor and this education secretary are targeting the state on this. Is there a sense of how strong membership is in some of the rural areas? Is there, I mean, it seems like in Tulsa, because you guys have, the messaging in the city, but how hard is it to get maybe some of that messaging out to areas that are sort of far flung in the state?
Well, I happen to also represent Tulsa on the state board for the Oklahoma Education Association. We have two state board members from TCTA. And so I meet with my counterparts who represent rural Oklahoma. Almost monthly, we have meetings. And it depends on the town, it depends on the district, on whether they are solid for OEA. If they're not members of anything, there are two other associations in the state, the Professional Oklahoma Educators and the American Federation of Teachers. So between the three of us, we have quite a bit of the state. Then again, you don't have to be a member to enjoy the benefits. And so there are a lot of teachers across the state who, not a lot, there are teachers across the state who still enjoy the benefits of what the union negotiates without belonging.
What do you think well, first, let me back up here. During the Republican primary, Ryan Walters apparently did better in the rural areas than Oklahoma City and Tulsa. Any explanation for that? His numbers, and I guess in Oklahoma City and Tulsa, am I wrong to think that the unions are at their strongest in those two cities? And somehow he did better in those two counties than the rest of the state. Why would that have happened?
And I believe Shauna has joined us again.
Yeah, hey, thank you. Guys, be okay.
You're still being, it still sounds robotic.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's cutting out. Branson's hard to get a connection from.
Try your phone, Shauna, instead of your computer.
Awesome. I might data. I just
I think we're going to have LeeAnne answer the question again because we can't understand. I'm sorry. So the question is, why would Ryan Walters, do better in, say, Oklahoma City and Tulsa, if we're assuming this is where the unions are strongest, than he did in the rural areas? I mean, what's your thought on that?
I have several. One of them is that this was one of the lowest turnouts in several years. So less than a quarter of the people who were eligible to vote voted. And in the metropolitan areas, like I said, we are half Republican, half Democrat. So I know that it was a Republican primary. Some people would let's just say we have loud opposition in both metro areas across the state. And I think they did a better job of getting people to the polls than we did. I mean, we're consumed with starting school and doing the work of, like I said, I've been teaching in the classroom since August 18th. So there's been less of an effort. And again, we don't tell our members how to vote. That's one of the other myths, is that we're out there saying you have to vote this way or you can't be a member. No, everyone is an adult. We try to give facts and we try to give data that people can follow. At the end of the day, we're not in the voting booth with them, and we're not the ones trying to tell them to vote one way or another. We do have recommended candidates. We have a political action committee, and we do have recommended candidates, and none of that is dues dollars. That is all voluntary money that members have spent in addition to their dues dollars. And once you have donated to the political action fund, then you also have a voice in that endorsement or recommendation. We don't endorse, we recommend. So you have a voice in that. If you give $10 to the political action or $1, then you can be on a committee to determine, to interview candidates, and then to determine whether or not we recommend them. So it's very much a organization where the voice of the people are involved in it. I think for that primary, that the opposition did a better job, or let me just not say opposition. The Walters campaign did a better job of getting people to the polls than the Grace campaign. And Secretary of Ed Walters has been in Tulsa a couple of times. There are a couple of locals who have invited him in. I'm not sure that Dr. has been in Tulsa yet to actually meet with people. So, I think there were a couple of things that happened there. Now we're just very nervous. If he wins, I don't know what the face of public education will look like in Oklahoma.
I wanted to talk a minute about organized labor in general. In the United States, organized labor membership has gone down since '83, which was the first time they'd really measured it, from about 20% to 10%. But recent information about the NEA and the American Federation of Teachers shows that 1 in 4 teachers nationwide are a member. So, that's higher than the national average. How strong would you say, and that's nationally, but how would you describe the strength of union membership in Oklahoma being a red state? Because I know a lot of people coming in from California and the coast, they think, the teachers union is going to be the strongest union in our state. I'm not sure I can say that when I'm thinking of the Farm Bureau, the oil and energy lobbyists. There are other interests that I think you've seen. So how would you describe the strength of, or the power that the union has in state politics?
Well, again, none of our dues dollars go towards any of those efforts. So it's additional money that teachers, who are one of the lowest paid industries in the state, having to have the certifications that we have and the degrees that we have to have, we're one of the lower paid industries. And so for a teacher to give 10, 15, 20 more dollars a month or individually towards political activity above and beyond what they do for their classrooms, et cetera, that's really making a statement. And there's not as many of us who can do that as there are in other industries. When starting salary is $40,000 for teachers, and right now, at least in the Tulsa area, a majority of our teachers have been here less than 5 years. So their salary is not much higher than $40,000. So for them to be able to give and have that political power or strength, it's a Herculean effort. And so you're right, we don't have as much. We work more with relationships than we do with our pocketbook. So we don't have Farm Bureau money. We don't have oil and gas money to be, funding all of these candidates for whatever, and then whatever favors they get back for them. We build relationships, and we have our members communicating on an individual basis with their elected officials.
What do you think the end game is? You talked earlier about what you feared, what would happen under Walters if he wins, what will happen to public education. What do you think the end game is? Equal footing with public education and private, or is it something even more nefarious, which is just doing away with public education? What do you think the point of this is? That's part one. Part two is, why do you think that's the goal? What do they don't really believe there's porn being peddled in public schools, right? I mean, they don't really believe that. Or if they do really believe that, I suppose they can say anything they want. They don't have to prove it. But what is the end game? Why are they picking on teachers other than this notion that teachers have it easy and you have summers off? That is still a thing people pull out of the air and go, well, yeah, they work 9 to 3 and they have summers off. But what else is going on, do you think? And why is it striking a nerve wherever it's striking a nerve? Is it just because it's too easy to knock teachers and you didn't get a real job and this is easy and you didn't go into the workforce and you don't deal with adults? What is this all about and where did it come from?
I think a lot of the answers that you gave already are part of it. If you look at the Republican Party platform for education, it's pretty clear in there what their end game is. And I'm a registered Republican, have been my entire life. And that's the one thing, or that's one of the things that I struggle with constantly, is the education platform does not favor public education. And that's what I have dedicated my life to being, is a public educator, public school educator. I do think there's some Secretary of Ed Walters has said that he doesn't want to take any federal money, at least no federal money with strings attached. Every federal dollar we get has strings attached. Mm-hmm. If you don't take federal money, then you're going to lose 10 to 12% in the metropolitan areas, up to 30% in the rural areas of your funding. This year, we were funded on a flat budget in a year of 7% inflation. So we were not funded at an equivalent level as we were last year. How do we pay the bills if we're not taking federal money, if we're funding on a flat budget, and if we are attacking teachers with rhetoric such as they're just trying to, their woke agenda, they're trying to bring porn in, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What do you think that end game is? It points to a very dire end game in my mind, and one that I'm willing to stand up and fight against, to say the entire reason to have public education is to create more and better citizens who can then become leaders in society, to be good citizens in society. So if you're trying to dismantle that, do you not want people to become leaders? Do you not want, so there's a whole bunch of what you said that has some point of truth to it, but I'm not in their heads, other than I've seen the Republican platform, the party platform for public education. And they want us to teach reading, writing, and arithmetic. So, I'm a second grade teacher. That's what I'm teaching, is reading, writing, and arithmetic.
The notion that
I'm going to ask a real quick question on you're talking about being a Republican and it not matching up.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at I was trying to find polling on how people viewed organized labor. And it was interesting that both the Gallup poll and the Pew Research Center showed that Americans overall think the decline in union membership is a bad thing for the country. And the Pew Center broke it out by Democrat, Republican, and age. And what was interesting about it was, not surprisingly, more the Democrats and Democrat-leaning independents think it's a bad thing, and by about 60%, whereas that drops among Republican or Republican-leaning independents to 40%. But looking at that, younger Republicans, it shifts to something like 60% of those young Republicans under 40 think it's a bad thing. So are you sensing a shift that maybe organized labor, people are now seeing organized labor differently now than they did in 30 years ago? Are you getting a sense from young Republicans that view it different, say, from older Republicans at this point?
I just want to clarify, because I think what I heard you say is not what you meant to say. Okay. Did you say that it shifts with young Republicans, that 60% say that
the 60%
organized labor
the
is
younger
bad,
Republicans think, they think the younger Republicans think that union membership is a good thing.
Right. That's not what I heard you say. So I wanted to make sure that's what we were talking about.
Right.
Right. I think younger people in general think that union or organized labor is a good thing. If you are watching across the country in the Starbucks and in the other industries, Amazon, I think it's the younger generation who is reinvigorating the movement and reinstituting. We need to come together collectively to ask for better things for our industries. And so I think the same thing is happening in education. A lot of the newer members in Tulsa Public and across, well, let me just speak for what I know, Tulsa Public, a lot of our newest employees are under the age of 40. They've come here for various reasons, or they're fewer and fewer of them graduating college with an education degree, but they're coming out of college and joining us, and they're of the younger generation. So they are joining. We met with several new teachers over the first 2 weeks that teachers were back in August, and we signed up 200 new members. So, and most of them have come to us. It's not been I've not had to go out and ask anyone to join. I have sent a couple of emails because that's one of the things we do. But so I've gotten a couple of new members that way, but most of them stop by our table. We sit in the hallway, they stop by our table and they're like, I need to join. Tell me about your organization. And a majority of those are of the younger generation.
Well, Shauna sent me a text message saying she wanted to emphasize that it has always been an opt-in and that, and I'm reading this from her, that Secretary Walters and Governor Stitt should have known that, and she just wanted to emphasize that. So anyway, I throw that in there.
I think they did.
I did say that at the beginning.
You did, but I'm trying to let Shauna know I repeated that. So
Here's my question to you. Most bad union stories are personal, right? You have a business and the union requires you to hire 4 or 5 people you don't think you need, or movers don't do the job because they have to hire too many people. Or what do you think the bad story is, the bad personal event was for people who were against unions, teacher unions? Is there something that happened, do you think? Or is it just this overall sense that my kid was not educated properly and I'm going to blame unions for that? Where do you think the emotional connection is between the anti-teacher union movement and politicians?
Well, if you've read the recent data that was published in the Oklahoman, most people love their schools, love their teachers. It's when you get further and further away from what I know that the stories become more, I don't know, they become
Fabricated.
bigger and bigger. Yes. And so everyone has heard of that one teacher who did XYZ.
Right.
And they don't know someone in their school that's done that, but somewhere out there, one teacher has done XYZ and the union has protected them or supported them. Our job as union members is to protect and support the processes that we have put in place, the processes that we have negotiated. So there may be bad teachers out there. I'm not here to save bad teachers. I'm here to make sure that the students in Tulsa Public Schools are supported and educated by having good teachers in the classrooms. So whenever someone says that, we're protecting the bad teachers, we're protecting the process, and the district also knows the process. And so it's upon them to follow the process correctly to get the bad teacher out. So, I mean, again, the stories become sensationalized if it's not someone you know. So, there's a big thing that, one of the reasons that Dr. Grace didn't win was because she's been protecting this teacher in her district for a long time. She wasn't. The school board did not do their job, so, and she's not part of the union. I'm just saying, so we all know the story of this teacher that has been around students who shouldn't have been in a city miles away, and they have that in their mind of, well, there are bad teachers out there. Every time one of our elected officials talks about the woke teachers or the CRT or all of these buzzwords that they're throwing out, no one in Tulsa, well, one person apparently in Tulsa, can look to their school and say, this is happening in our schools, but they're still afraid that it's happening. And the storyline is that the unions are protecting it. The unions are the ones putting it forth. I didn't even know what CRT was until it became a national thing a year and a half ago. So it's not been my job to make sure that we have CRT in the school, but that's the narrative and the storyline that's out there. So now we have to battle against that. When, we have state standards, we're teaching our state standards. There are some sensitive subjects in our state standards. The way to change that is to change the state standards, not to attack the unions.
Another couple of criticisms that I hear in that, and also, by the way, it's not just CRT. If you can define woke, I know a lot of my mom's generation would love to have that definition if you can come up with that one. But the other couple of criticisms that come out a lot of times, and this happens in other unions as well, which is there's this idea that there's this insatiable appetite for public funds. Like you never have enough public money. It's just you're constantly coming to the trough, so to speak. And the other one is that the unions are resistant to what would be considered reforms. But those reforms are usually private school vouchers or merit pay. So when those two things come up, I mean, what's your response representing teachers to those couple of things?
We do want to be fully funded. The reason we say there's not enough money is because mandates keep being placed on us that are not funded. We only get, and I may be wrong on the numbers here, but of all of the IDEA, Individuals with Disability Educational Act, we're only funded at about 60% for that. But yet we still have to do all of the things that are mandated for us to do. So when I say we don't have enough money, when I'm talking for teachers and saying we don't have enough money, it's because we want to do all of the things that we're told to do for our students, but we don't have the money to do it. And every time a voucher or scholarship or whatever the name of the month is, for those that would take public money and put it into private entities, those private entities are also getting money from their from the students, from the families of the students that are in that building as well. So they have additional money and they want to take the money that is for public education. So we do often say we don't have enough money, but it's because we're trying to do the things that we've been told we have to do. Take care, feed the children, take care of the individuals who have disabilities, 90 minutes of reading, 60 minutes of math. It's really 120 minutes of reading or English language, 60 minutes of math, recess time. All of the things that we're being told we have to do are not being funded at a level that we can do them. So you put that out there upon us, and then you want to take some of our money and give it over here to entities that have funding from other sources.
Can I just ask you about the vouchers and about the private schools? I think Holland Hall is $20,000 a year now, maybe more, but it's in that ballpark. When you say vouchers, not you, but when they offer vouchers for parents to have choice, and here's a $4,000 voucher, do what you want. You can go to Holland Hall for about 8 weeks. If your kid can get into Holland Hall. It pays for a quarter of it, whatever voucher it would be. The selling point is it's bait and switch.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do with $4,000 for a private school here in Oklahoma? Nothing. Other thing about money is what you talked about.
A private school that doesn't provide transportation either. And I think at Holland Hall, they have to bring their own lunches. So there's not food there either. So
right.
Not only is it not paying the tuition, it's not paying for all of the other things to get someone there either.
And the unfunded mandate.
Halls, though. I think it's the schools that want to exist but can't. So, you know, when I think about rural areas, I can see churches popping up and saying, I've always wanted to have a school, but I can't afford it. So if I can get all these vouchers, which brings up all these questions about, okay, if you have a school where every kid's on a voucher, isn't that a public school? So I'm just interjecting that because I don't think it has to do with the Holland Halls and the Bishop Kellys and these established ones. I think it's for others that are barely existing or want to exist and can't. So anyway, continue.
And I have no beef with Holland Hall. I have lots of friends who teach Holland Hall.
I don't either. The point is, you know, if Ginny, you're right, and a church wants to open up a school, go, we'll take the $4,000. That'll cover it. Maybe they think that'll cover it. And you can bring your own, you know, juicy juice. We'll cover the education. The other point about the not being funded enough is that's also part of the plan. Let me just say that cynically is that if you can starve the beast, then you can blame the beast for being lethargic. And that's also part of the plan. If they give you 60% of the money they should give you, then they can come back in a year and say, look at your scores. You're failing these students. You're not providing the education. It's better if we take that money and give it to somebody else. And what you're saying is, and I agree with you, is you purposefully take away the money we need to do the job you tell us we have to do, and then say, see, you didn't do the job.
Yep. That's the whole program in a nutshell. And even if, let's say 25% of Tulsa Public Schools decides that they want to go somewhere else with a voucher, that still leaves 75% of our students. We still have to pay the electricity for all the buildings, the custodians for all the buildings, the plumbing for all the buildings, all of the things. So taking a few out to give them money where they may or may not be able to go somewhere else does not negate the needs of the district. Well, but the money follows the student. Yes, it does. But that's one student. You still need the building. You still need the air conditioning. You still need the heat in the winter. You still need to cook, all of those things. And you still need teachers. If you take 2 kids, right now I have a class of 20 second graders. If 2 of them take a voucher and go somewhere else, they still need me to teach 18 second graders. So see, you can't do it, but fully fund me for 10 years and then see if we can do it or not. Until you fully fund us, you can't hold us responsible for what we can or cannot do.
But of course they can, and they are.
And they do, yes. And some of them are getting louder and louder and louder about it.
So one of the interesting things I remember I covered schools, Tulsa Public Schools, like 20 something years ago. And at the time, I remember the TCTA and the administration really at loggerheads. I mean, it was like an impasse every year. I mean, there was a lot of, and this was, John Thompson days, Superintendent Thompson way back. Now it seems like, and maybe it's me, but it doesn't seem like that animosity is there. That I think the TCTA and the administration probably have disagreements on some things, but overall, it doesn't seem like it's the dysfunction it used to be. I mean, how would you describe your relationship with the administration, which is who you're negotiating with on behalf of these teachers? I mean, how would you describe what that is right now? Because I get the sense that this targeting of public ed has sort of brought you guys together a little bit.
If they have a common enemy now.
Exactly. It's like, well, we got a bigger fight.
I don't have any enemies. We have done.
As an elementary school teacher.
We think you do.
I have people who think I'm their enemy. Let's put it that way. But I'm just trying to teach second graders. So come at me. We do have major disagreements with the district. We have done a better job recently of identifying the person or entity within the district that we have a beef with, and bringing it to the table and having conversations. It's not about, and our common goal is to do what's best for students. And in our world, that means if we're doing what's best for teachers, then teachers are going to do what's best for students. So there are some things still with the district that we're like, no, we don't agree with that at all. But we can do it in a civil way and have a conversation about it. Sometimes they win, sometimes we win. But yes, we do have different groups right now that we, the district and the organization, have bonded over. That's not the truth. And we both need to fight it because, woke liberals, CRT, all of that. And again, tell your grandma I need to know what woke means too, because when I get up out of my bed and my eyes are open, I think I'm woke. So I don't know. But so there are some untruths, a lot of untruths out there that we are both fighting. But in the meantime, we still have our own disagreements. Again, we're trying to do what's best for kids. And I think for me, my unique perspective is I came from that part. I was the science coordinator for the district before I came over. So I have some insight into all of the red tape and all of the things that have to go on before something can happen. So I'm able to bring that knowledge to the union to say, but wait, I know that they have to do this, this, and this first. So let's give them some breathing room to do that. And then if they still haven't done it, let's have a longer conversation. So some of it is that, some of it is we have a common group of lies and things out there that we need to discover. Some of it is we both realize that for the most part, we're trying to do what's best for students and teachers.
The ambiguity of CRT and woke is pretty much the game plan. That if you can't define it, you can call it whatever it wants. And you say you're going to deal with facts. What facts? Where are the facts? But I did see something the other day, and I was going to ask you specifically. Part of the venom against CRT, whatever it is inclusion, which is insane, but that is part of it. And so if a teacher puts up a rainbow flag on the wall, is that indoctrination or is that humanity? And what do you do if that's considered a violation of the law? I mean, if you're a teacher, do you then go, then this is not my profession. This is not for me. This is not what I signed up for. I will leave, which is exactly what the Ryan Walters of the world want you to do. Or do you say, all right, I can still do my job. I'll take down the rainbow flag. And I won't talk about bad Germans and Nazis. And I won't quite talk about slavery. And I won't quite talk about redlining. And I won't quite talk about the Trail of Tears. At some point, they want the good teachers gone. And at some point, the good teachers have to go, because how do you literally face yourself in the morning if you have to take down the rainbow flag from your classroom? If all you want to do is say to students, there's a world out there and we have to treat each other with a certain amount of love and kindness. And you have a state saying, no, you do not. Diversity is not a strength. Inclusion is not a strength. Now, what do you do if you're a teacher?
Well, our district, Tulsa Public Schools, has come out and said everyone belongs, and we will teach the history as we know it and as the standards require. So as long as the district is on board with all of that, we've got teachers who have rainbow flags, we have teachers who have crosses. I'm good with either one. I'm good with both. I can have both in my classroom. I think at an appropriate, developmentally appropriate level, some things aren't meant for an elementary classroom, some things aren't meant for a middle school classroom, so put them where they belong. When my second graders show up every morning, and Shauna gets nervous when I call them mine because I'm only there until someone else comes in, but she's like, you're not going to go back to that. So, but when my second graders show up every morning, I'm giving them a high five and a handshake because everyone is welcome in my classroom. And therein lies the other part of my job as the vice president for the Tulsa Classroom Teachers Association. When someone is told to take down their rainbow flag, I'm there to help them navigate that. When someone is told to take down their cross, I'm there to help them navigate that, because we do have policies and procedures in place and we're going to follow them. We may follow them, we may disagree with them, follow them, and then work to change them. However, at this point in time, it's beneficial to be a member of a union or an association in Oklahoma. It's beneficial to be a member so that you have that support.
I was going to ask, because I've a lot of the teachers I know that are members, they do it because they want to have representation in that scenario. But I'm wondering how many are joining for other reasons. This 200 new teachers that you mentioned. Do you have a sense of what is the selling point for joining the union? I mean, what are bringing people into it?
I'm going to read you some quotes recently that we asked people that question. What's the benefit of joining a union? So let me pull up the quotes that I have on that.
It does seem like with House Bill 1775, that would be an even bigger pull.
I mean,
looking at
some people join because they're afraid. Some people, we did give them $50 back. So there's that too. Well, I need $50 because I don't get paid for 6 weeks. I'm trying to pull this up on my phone and it's a different, there we go, groups. And, in TCTA specifically, we have, at the beginning of the year, we have what we call the give and grab. It's basically a free garage sale for teachers, where teachers who've retired or otherwise left the district have donated things, and we've collected brand new things too. And then if you're new to teaching, you can come and shop at the give and grab for free. So they see that as something that they can do to, that by being a member, they get that benefit. Trying to find my, do it this way. There it is. Okay, I'm just going to read some of the quotes. TCTA helps protect me as a teacher and is there if I have a concern or question about something. The best benefit, having someone to vent to who understands. TCTA is my backup net, there to give understanding, clarification, and support. We are blessed. Not all unions are as effective as TCTA. TCTA gives me the peace of mind that if I need an answer or support, they are there. If you have a problem and it don't look good, who you going to call? TCTA. And these are just members who have put, TCTA provides services for their members as well as protection, and also stands up for members in the collective bargaining process. TCTA makes sure that our school district doesn't take advantage of us by using collective bargaining to get us a fair contract. TCTA provides new teachers with opportunities to get supplies for the start of the year. They also offer Mama J's food pantry year-round for anyone who might need it. So just different reasons. One person said because through our association with Oklahoma Education Association and the National Education Association, there are travel benefits and discounts. There are one person said, I'm securing the future for my family by putting together a will and, you know, other legal services that you get for free or at a discount. So there's multiple reasons. Most of it is they want the peace of mind that we'll be there to help represent them in the case of a dispute with the district, a dispute with the parent, or a dispute with a law.
Are you involved in the lawsuit?
I was gonna say, I think it's sad that there's a food pantry and you have to have a garage sale for teachers just to do their jobs and to eat. I mean, we're
not fully funded.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that's horrifying. So go ahead, Barry.
Are you part of the lawsuit? Is there a lawsuit against the state and these bills?
TCTA is not. I don't believe OEA is yet. That's not to say either one of us might not be, but right now, the ACLU has a lawsuit, but we have not joined into it yet.
Is there a reason for that?
I mean, TCTA hasn't been asked. I think at the state level, there may be reasons. I'm not sure if the person who originally, you know, there's like only one or two people who have been taken to task over their teaching. And I don't know if they were union members or not. They're not from Tulsa, so I don't know if they're union members or not.
How much of your collective bargaining each year has to do with pay versus work environment? Because I don't think people realize that you're also negotiating things like administrators can't require teachers to attend so many things outside the workout, you know, like, you know, right. Some administrators I know would be like, you have to attend all the football games and you work at night and so you limit these things. So how much of what you do has to do with money versus non-monetary things?
It's probably a 25-75 split. 25% is money. It's not guaranteed that we get a step increase every year. TPS pays above the state minimum, so they don't have to increase every year. So we negotiate that. We negotiate for extra duties. So the bus duty, cafeteria duty, teacher in charge, those different things. The sports stipends also are part of the negotiation process. But, you know, that's a little bit of it because the district only has so much money. The flat budget this year, 7% inflation rate, they're not going to be able to give us a whole lot. And we know and understand that. There is some ESSER money that might come into play, but The rest of it is about, guaranteeing that we get plan time, because we are told we have to do certain things by, there's school board, there's district, school board, state legislature, and federal legislation are all mandate things that we have to do in the classroom. And if we don't get additional time or time to do that, then we struggle. So we negotiate plan time, we negotiate work environment, we negotiate, like you said, there are only so many events after hours that they can ask teachers to attend to. We've had to sub for ourselves the last several years. So that means taking that plan time and our lunchtime away from us so that we can be in classrooms where a teacher was not able to show up for the day. So we negotiate all of that with the district. Anything that has to do with our working environment and or our pay, we negotiate. And it's generally about a 25 to 75% ratio. I will say that last year, there were so many obstacles in the way that really had nothing to do with the relationship or the bargaining process, but school closures, COVID, all those things. It took us a long time to get through negotiations. This year, we hope to be finished in the next week or two, certainly before October. So, there's just different things that we have to, and our negotiations is member driven. And it's actually bargaining unit driven. So there's two different entities there. We have our members who pay dues to belong, and then everybody who doesn't pay dues but is also in the classroom is part of the bargaining unit. So we bargain for the entire bargaining unit, not just our members. And so if someone has an issue, a concern, a thought, an idea, they will send that to us. We send a survey out and ask, here's the contract, what do we need to add or subtract from it? And then we also have, every building has a representative within it who comes to a meeting every month. We call them our delegates. Every month they come to a meeting and they give us feedback from their members. And then we also have them at the end of the year or sometime close in the spring semester, have conversations about our contract and what are some things that need to be changed in it. So it's not, Shauna and LeeAnne make up all these things that we want to make the district do. It's really member driven and bargaining unit member driven. Anytime something comes up and someone is adamant about it, then they come tell us about it. We take notes, and then that's what comes on our bargaining docket for the next year.
Okay. Well, we're coming up on an hour, which is a little longer than our normal. I mean, we could go on. I mean, there's so many things. So I'm going to let Barry have the last word, last question. And
it's an open-ended question. Take another hour, but I'll ask it anyway. I know you're going to have to say you're optimistic, but are you? I mean, are you really optimistic this is going to get better?
That's such a big question. I always have optimism.
I know.
There are some things that, I can't imagine a world where certain things are no longer guaranteed rights or privileges for people. And so if I go down that road, I would not get out of bed for a week because I would just be so sad about the prospect. So I have to have optimism. We've reached out to all of the candidates. We, being the state organization, has reached out to all of the candidates to ask for interviews and to start or continue building relationships. And there's some places where there's no optimism because they haven't even responded to our phone calls,
Right.
Which makes me very concerned about what could be, but I've got to have some optimism there.
Okay.
I think that's the teacher in you.
Probably.
Elementary teachers tend to be at the
These
maybe
kids
mad at the
can.
moment, but at the end of the day, they're putting the happy faces on the wall.
And hugs still work.
Well, thank you so much. I think that for so many teachers unions or unions in general are sometimes a mystery, that there is assumptions made, and we just wanted to have you on here to just kind of talk about some of the things. And I really appreciate it, especially on this Labor Day weekend where we're not supposed to be working and enjoying our time. So
Thank you.
thank
We
you so
appreciate
much.
you having us. And if, just for the general public, our office is open. Welcome to come by and chat with us if some of your questions didn't get answered, or if you have other questions. I may not be there because I'm still teaching in a second grade classroom for a while, but most of our members have our direct phone numbers as well. So anytime anybody wants to know anything, just reach out to us.
That's a good thing. And you probably are easily found on websites and other places. And I wish more people would do that, reach out to get actual answers rather than listening to national talking points. So that's a very good thing. So any other
I
last
can't
words?
hide.
Any other last words you want to give us before we call it a night?
Don't forget to vote in November.
Yes, we need to repeat that often. Thank you very much. And
Thank
until
you.
next week, I thank everybody for listening.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.